Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now in the last video we spoke about how to sow onions from seeds rather than from set, which is a new experiment that I'm doing this year. So fingers crossed, it's going to be okay. Today we're going to talk about chilies. When I say chilies, I also mean things like peppers, and for here paprikas, that kind of fat group of families. I've put together a video so you can get an understanding about how best to go about producing these great veggies. And I'll also put a link to the onion seed sowing. There's a tongue twister for you. So early in this video as well, in the link down below. Chilies, peppers, paprikas, it's a massive family. And there's so many varieties out there to choose from. When you look at the chilies, you can see the numerous varieties out there and how hot they are, or how mild they are, or sweet, etc. You can do the same with the peppers, and you can do the same with paprikas. Now for us here, remember we're in southern Hungary, we grow in the main paprikas to create the powder, the spice, but also we can grow a pale yellow one that looks more like a pepper, but is the shape of quite a large chili. And that's very sweet, full of moisture. And there's things that we can do with that as well. January is the perfect time to get these guys going because they require a long growing season to get to harvest point. And also, they do not the cold, as this video that's coming up is about to show you. So we would need to be starting them off indoors where it's nice and warm and toasty. Now, eventually they will be transplanted out in their final positions. And for a lot of you guys, I'm guessing you're going to be wanting to put them in polytunnels and or a greenhouse. But they do well in pots as well. And you can have them if you've got nothing like that available to you by putting them on in your conservatory, for example. They'll grow well. So let's get into the video and we'll come back and summarise in the end. So here's our guide to growing chili plants. Chili seeds can be sown indoors from January through to March. It depends on your climate. And for best results, we want to sow them in a warm, well-lit place with a temperature of around 20 degrees Celsius, which is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's best to use a peat-free seed compost and sow the seeds thinly, cover them lightly with a little bit more of that compost. And then keep it moist and the container well drained as well. If you want, you can pop them inside a box with a humidity dome, but remove it as soon as you see some germination. Once your seedlings have developed their first true leaves, they can be potted on into individual pots or containers. And as before, use a good quality peat-free potting compost and make sure that the drainage is good. Keep your plants well watered and feed them with a high potassium liquid feed every 2 weeks. Chili plants need plenty of sun, ideally between 6 to 8 hours a day. They also need well-drained soil that is not too rich in nutrients. But they are sensitive to root rot, so don't overwater them. Water your plants regularly, but only when the top of the soil feels dry to the touch. Now the seeds can take between 5 to 14 days to germinate, so give them plenty of time. The germination time will depend on the variety of the chili plant, the temperature and the moisture content of the seed compost. And they're generally ready to harvest when they have turned their mature colour. And this can be anywhere from 80 to 100 days after transplanting. It depends on the variety you've chosen. To harvest chilies, simply cut them off at the stem with a sharp knife or a pair of scissors. Chili plants are susceptible to a number of pests and diseases, including aphids, whitefly, spider mites, and powdery mildew. To prevent these problems, it's important to practice good garden hygiene and remove any affected leaves or stems. You may also need to use an organic or a natural insecticidal soap to control the pests. These plants need warm, sunny climates with a long growing season. They will not tolerate a frost, so they should be grown in a greenhouse or polytunnel or in a sheltered outdoor location. We've already mentioned that the soil should be well drained, but it also could be slightly acidic. To encourage a bushier growth, simply pinch out the growing tips of the young plants and stake tall varieties to prevent them from falling over in the wind. If you harvest chilies regularly, you're going to encourage continued fruiting. And you can overwinter chili plants indoors to extend the harvest season. When handling chili pepper seeds, it's crucial to exercise extreme caution due to the presence of capsaicin, the compound responsible for the spiciness and heat. doesn't take much to hurt you, so here's some essential precautions to take. Always wear gloves made of latex, nitrile or vinyl when handling the chili pepper seeds. This will prevent direct contact with the skin and minimise the risk of capsaicin irritation. It is painful. After handling chili pepper seeds, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water and pay particular attention to the areas between your fingers, under your fingernails and around your eyes to eliminate any capsaicin residue. Talking of your eyes, avoid touching sensitive areas like your eyes, mouth or nose after handling these deadly seeds. This is because the capsaicin can cause burning sensations in these very sensitive areas. If you accidentally spill or drop chili pepper seeds, catch them over the sink to prevent the capsaicin from spreading to other surfaces. It sounds odd, but avoid inhaling chili pepper seeds or powder, as the capsaicin can irritate your respiratory system. These guys sound really dangerous. And don't forget to wipe down the surfaces that come into contact with these guys. You can use just soapy water. If necessary, seek medical attention. If capsaicin does come into contact with your eyes or your mouth, rinse the affected area with water for at least 15 minutes and seek medical attention if the irritation persists. Crikey, they do sound dangerous, don't they? But they're worth growing. Just pay attention to what you're doing and you'll be fine. Now, let's get back to a summary. There's a lot of tips in that video there that I hope you've taken on board that's going to help you get a great abundance of this great vegetable. It's so versatile. There's a lot you can do with these guys. You can flavour oil with them, you can stuff them and cook them in the oven. And if you're growing paprikas, you can also turn that into paprika powder. Just a bit of a history note for you, if you like, or something that I read. I'm not sure how true it is, but I think it's pretty accurate. Smoked paprika. How did that come about? From what I understand, the sensation of the smokiness from the paprika hasn't come from the plant itself, but it's undergone a process. And that came about when people were using paprikas when they were cooking on an open fire. And so basically the smoke and the ash has gone into their soup or their stew, and that's given the flavour. Nowadays, you can buy that same sensation in the local supermarket. I actually think the traditional way is better. If you've got any views on that, let me know down in the comments below. Be interesting to see. The other thing is that I know that a lot of paprikas come from Spain, but the proper paprika is from Hungary. So it's worth bearing that in mind as well. But if you can grow anything like this in your space, you're going to be rewarded with a great harvest. But the key thing to remember is they do not like getting cold. Now for us here, we've got a continental warm climate, and that allows us to be able to grow ours outside. If you're able to do it outside, brilliant. Bear in mind the points that we made in the video about pest and disease. Just keep an eye on those and you should be okay. Now, in the last couple of years, I have grown them outside. And there's one thing I need to bear in mind, and that is wind. Because if I get a lot of wind hitting the plant, they can snap. So they need to be supported just to get them going. And then once they're established, you should be fine with that. But it's worth having that in the back of your mind that you may need to put in a stake and tie it to the stake to stop it from snapping in the breeze. Now, as we go through the summer months, we'll obviously be harvesting our produce. And so as we do that, the lady of the house is going to be looking at ways on how we can process those things. So whether it's cooking, stuffing, roasting, making flavoured oils, making the paprika, all that kind of thing, or even a chili jam, these are all going to be coming up over the next few months. So it's worth you staying tuned to the channel, if not to learn how to grow something, but how to use it. All you got to do, click that link right hand corner of your screen and you can join us. A lot of us tend to think that January is a little bit of a slow month, but in actual fact it's not. So we've already looked at sowing onion seeds and we're now looking at the chilies in that particular family. But later on in the month, from the second week of January onwards and certainly into the middle of February, yeah, you can still be sowing all these things we've just discussed, but also there are other vegetables that we can get going. Obviously indoors and under cover, but it gives us a head start for the spring. And then we can transplant out into final positions. One example of that, which is another long season crop, is an eggplant or an aubergine. And again, this is a good time of year to be doing that. But in the next video, I shall be covering that along with the other fruits and vegetables that perhaps we can sow during January to give us a harvest that's going to be abundant throughout the next growing season. But for now, take care and I'll catch up with you next time.